Hey everyone, so I'm pretty sure my previous webcam is still broken and is staying broken, but I did find another shitty webcam. I'll just have to buy a new one from scratch, but here it is. I've moved, we're in a new room, the red walls are gone. This is my sort of shitty DIY thrown together lighting for now. I'm slowly gonna figure out how to make this place look like anything. But yeah, we moved houses, I'm in a new place with Andrew, and figuring out this new space. I realize I don't think I've talked about Megaplex still really, and it's been a while since then. So I thought I'd talk about some of the mess that happened with all of that. I've had a few flight mishaps for furry conventions. I had a decent track record, and then I've been going to them for like 3 years now, and I haven't had that many crises. But the first big nightmare one was the one where last year for MFF, I so I used to live 2 hours away from the airport, and the conventional wisdom is it should be at an airport 2 hours early for a flight so that things don't go poorly, right? So last year, I'm at the gas station leaving to go to the airport, and I get the text message about, or the notification about the flight, and I look at it, and I'm kind of just staring at it for a moment. I realize, like, oh, the flight leaves in 2 hours, and I'm still 2 hours away from the airport. So, like, in my brain, I had done the math wrong on when to wake up, and instead of waking up on the 2 hour based on the 2 hours before of arriving early and the 2 hours of travel time, I just did one 2 hour interval. So I completely miscalculated and completely fucked that up and just set my alarm for the wrong time, and it just ruined myself. I had a tendency to schedule flights earlier than I'd want them to be, and have to just wake up at a shitty time and drive 2 hours away. That day I just committed. I just drove all the way there. I spent a non-trivial amount of the drive just kind of yelling at no one in the car because I'm just stressed out and feel like I'm ruining my trip or something's gonna go wrong. I wasn't super familiar with how it tends to go if you miss a flight and how that goes for you and if they help you out at all and so on. So I thought I'm fucked. I got there and I just fly through security. It was completely empty. I just walked right through security in moments, went straight to the terminal. Like, they were calling my name on the intercom specifically, and I could hear it at security because it's just such a small airport in Sacramento that you can really just fly through. And so I managed to get it that time. Flash forward to now with Megaplex, I've now moved to Sacramento. So instead of having to drive 2 hours to get there, I now just go straight in. I was like, theoretically, I'm like, okay, I live like 20 minutes from the airport. I can just like probably like wake up like 2 hours before the flight and just go in and just have a less stressful time. It's probably that straightforward. Is that since I'm local now, and things have gone so well in the past, I can probably just get away with waking up 2 hours before the flight departs, roll out of bed, just get the hell to the airport immediately with bags that I've already packed and all that. Just drive straight there, park, get to the flight, and then if I have free time, then I can get coffee and some kind of like shitty airport breakfast to get my morning going. That is not how Megaplex started for me. So I got up to go to the airport, and I had already made my first mistake, which is that I had not accounted for city traffic during the morning when obviously everyone's trying to go to work. So that quick 20-minute drive quickly got a lot longer. And I spent a lot of time stuck in people that know the Sacramento area know that there's a certain fucked up area right before the causeway where a whole bunch of roads are all just kind of merging into each other endlessly, right next to a whole bunch of on-ramps and off-ramps and so on. It's just a nightmare part of the town that fills up with so many cars and no one can get anywhere for a while, and it's really hard to change lanes and all that. And that was already a mistake, so definitely need to plan ahead for that. But then I get to the airport and they have introduced a K9 unit that was not there before. So there's a huge backed up line. There's a fucking monorail you have to get on just to get to that right part of the airport, and that monorail has a line just to get to there, and then you get past the monorail and there's a line to get to the K9 units part where you walk past this dog and there's fans and it's supposed to catch stuff. I don't know if any of that ever works at all. It's I actually my stepmother used to work with the TSA, and she herself claims that it's all just theater, that all of the airport stuff is just security theater. None of it actually accomplishes anything. It's just nonsense. And I believe her, because it usually feels that way. But we still have to go through it. We don't get the choice. So there's a big line to go through the K9 unit, all to then get in the line to actually go through the rest of security. And so there's just so many interruptions, and there's so many delays that I legitimately spent an hour in security at the same airport that I just flew through last year. So that was fun. But it's not the takeoff time yet. And I get to the flight that I'm getting on, and I make it there, and I'm in line with other people that are also getting in on the last minute. And I'm like, okay, this should be fine because I'm here. And they let the people in front of me on the plane, and then they scan my ticket, and the computer just says no, and it just rejects my ticket, and they just say you're gonna have to go to customer service. They just say you're gonna have to go back there, and I'm like, what's going on here? And it took me time to realize that, like, basically we passed the threshold for when the flight just stops allowing people on. And so it just, that moment, because there was somebody else in front of me in line, it ticked over to like I think they don't let people in 10 minutes before the flight takes off or something like that. It ticked over and just stopped right there when I was in line and just refused to let me in, even though I was already there and there was no allowance for letting me on. The people that were running it didn't like just flag me through or help me out at all. They just like immediately rejected me to customer service. So immediately this is a bad sign where I just can't get on the flight, and I'm trying to go all the way to Florida, to Orlando, Florida. This is just already a fucking nightmare disaster. And I don't know what's going to happen next. I go to security, and thankfully they're actually able to reroute me to a new flight that's actually taking off right now. The difference is going to be that I'm going to be flying to Chicago instead of Los Angeles, or San Diego. I was going to go to San Diego, then Florida. Now I'm going all the way to Chicago, then Florida. So the fact that this works out and they just put me on another flight just like that, that's great. That could have gone so much worse. The shitty part of this is that I was counting on, I was like, okay, it'll be like a 1 or 2 hour flight to San Diego, and then I'll have a layover there. So I'll just have breakfast/lunch in San Diego. I'll have coffee. I'll like wake up and kind of be a human at that point. I'll just sacrifice this morning to get to there. So having like probably like a 90-minute flight to San Diego to then have my breakfast is a very different start to my day than flying 4.5 hours to Chicago. But that's, at least the flight's not going. So I'm just like, I just feel like shit, but I'm on a plane now and it's going somewhere. So at least this trip is off to a start, and I'm still having the vacation I thought I was going to have. But then I get to Chicago, and I do this part to myself a little bit. Whenever I get to any airport, I always go straight to the gate that the flight is on, because I want like to make eye contact with exactly where the flight's going to be, and I know where it is, and I know where I have to be at a specific time, and just want to be on top of the ball there and so on. I had like a 2-hour layover or something in Chicago, but I get to the gate I'm supposed to go to, and I see that it's got all the same information as the flight that I'm going to be on, but it's a different flight, right? But it's the same destination, and more importantly, it's boarding right now. So I was just like, what's going on with all this? So I go to the customer service that's right there, and I'm like, just so we're clear, like, here's my ticket. This is a different flight, right? Because I just wanted to be sure I'm not messing something up. And she's like, oh yeah, that's different. It's a different flight, but we can just put you on this one. And I'm like, that's pretty good for such a long day of travel. If I can skip such a long layover, in the moment, I'm like, I gotta take that, right? And they did. They just put me on the new flight, and I just skipped ahead like crazy compared to the scheduled flight that the person at the first place had sent me on. So now I'm just going, I just landed in Chicago. I'm getting right back on a plane to now fly to Orlando, Florida, just immediately. So the good news is I just cut 2 hours off of my flight travel, my travel time for today. The bad news is I'm fucking starving. I was really kind of counting on finally eating in Chicago, and I am now flying all the way to Orlando so I'm not going to get to eat much of anything besides that tiny packet of pretzels until I arrive at my destination at the end of an entire day of travel. So that sucks. But we're doing fine. I get on the plane. We're flying to Orlando. We get to Orlando. We start circling the airport. And crucially, we start descending towards the runway. And we go down through some clouds. Visibility goes away. I'm looking out the window through this, and I'm just seeing us go down towards Orlando. And then we rise back out of the clouds. We're going back up. So we went towards the tarmac to land and end this whole day of travel, and then just went back up, and then we flew away. And for like 20 minutes, the captain doesn't say anything. We're just flying away from the airport that we're supposed to land in. And then finally, after like 20 minutes, he says that like the weather's not great. So we're going to Tampa for fuel and instructions, or fuel and directions is the way he puts it. Like we're lost. Haha. It's folksy, cute commentary. We're like, what the fuck is going on? So we land in Tampa, Florida, and I'm just stuck on the tarmac there, and we don't know how long we're going to be there. And it turns out we end up stuck in Tampa for like 2 or 3 hours. Like longer than the time I spent flying from Chicago to Orlando. We get stuck in Tampa, Florida, and we're just sitting there. And like once we're not flying around and so on, once we're just like stuck in a plane that's just sitting on the runway, it gets real fucking muggy real fast. Like the Florida air is getting to us. It's just getting kind of gross in general and unpleasant. And I'm just getting super distracted. The cat just came over and just kicked a toy under the door. Andrew's cat just like knocked a toy or a treat or something like right under my door, and then was like trying to reach under the door like a little monster to reach it, which is eerie every time. Very distracting. I wasn't going to be able to get through that thought without dealing with that. You little... Oh, they're doing it again. Go away. I'm becoming a plaything. Do I need to like pack the bottom of this door to make them stop? So I get stuck in Tampa, Florida for an eternity, and like they don't want us to get off the plane even though we're at the airport, because like we could get off the plane and go be human beings and like sit down on comfortable spots and have something to eat or walk around and stretch our legs and so on. But they don't want to let us get off the plane because like they don't want to have to like round us up afterwards. Like they're worried about that being an additional delay. And I'm like, an additional delay compared to what? We're already stuck on this fucking plane for hours. They kept us there for so long that I did what never happens, which is I befriended my neighbor. Like we actually just started chatting actively. She was actually really cool. I think she was like in her early 20s, and she was a transplant from Orlando to Chicago. So she was living in Chicago and she's coming down to visit her family. And I'm trying to remember the specifics, but like she was like I think she was like a cinematographer and a game designer. Like she was like really like into really interesting stuff. And she had a really particular perspective because like she's from Florida, which isn't a great place for people like me necessarily, but she actually has a ton of queer friends and family and so on, and had a very specific perspective, and was actually really entertaining to talk to. Like I was like sitting here making a friend, and I'm like, imagine being able to talk to people around you and make friendly conversation and have that go well even half the time. Basically, like my ongoing experience with being on planes is to have like religious people start having loud conversation about woke society and how like there's how godless things are and so on, and the like queer people corrupting the world. Like I've had multiple plane rides where I have to just sit there, and I'm probably wearing like a rainbow bracelet or some kind of signifier, and I'm just listening to people actively talking very homophobically or transphobically out loud to a crowded plane, and I'm literally on my way to a furry convention, which is a queer event, and I'm just like, do I say something? Does someone say something? Is anyone going to react to this conversation? Like I don't I don't want to deal with the fight for this. I'm on a plane that I can't leave for like the next 4 or 5 hours. But it's insane that like the people that would have issue with this stuff are the people that are the ones that are quiet, and the people that don't have an issue with the stuff, like the people that are, like, it's the result is that people get to just freely be queer phobic out loud, really brazenly in a crowd, because nobody wants to deal with the mess of confronting somebody on a plane that you're stuck on for hours afterwards. And so like it's a weird paradox where this really shitty behavior gets to get away with being what is inherently disrupt. Like they're the ones that are being disruptive first, but they'll just like get to gut away with that and keep going just because no one wants to deal with that mess. I remember in particular knowing that she was pretty cool because she was talking about visiting the Pulse shooting memorial in Florida, which for those that don't know, a bunch of people were shot and killed at a mass shooting at a gay bar in 2016 in Florida. And there has been a rainbow crosswalk there since. And because Trump's America is so garbage, they were just removing the memorial to a mass shooting. Like, they've been memorialized long enough. It's been like 8 years. We'll just forget them now. It's like almost 50 people die. Like, what the fuck? It's like, that's how little queer lives matter half the time, that we're just gonna like erase a memorial of a shooting. Great. But after all these hours, we finally end up lifting off and heading back to Orlando. At this point, it's like, I'm going there to meet Jericho and Orion from the Remember the Flowers team, meeting Rio from, what's it called? String Zero. Horrorbuns, fellow cast member of No Playing Games, is going to be there. I had already texted Horrorbuns about it, and he had tried to get dinner for me based on my ETA, so that I was arriving for. So he's going to have a sandwich ready for me, and because I end up arriving so many hours later, that sandwich is going to be cold and kind of gross by the time I get there, probably. But I finally get back to Orlando, and we land, and I get my bags, and things are finally on track. And I had recently visited a friend in Vancouver. And when I went to the Vancouver airport, this time in particular, like the first time I visited him, I just took the train to his house. But this time, the second time I went to Vancouver, I arrived too late and public transport was no longer running. So instead, I needed to get a taxi, and I was need to figure out that, which I had never actually taken a taxi before because I haven't been traveling that much till recently, and I'm used to just using my car for everything. But conveniently in Vancouver, there was just taxis waiting there in a big line, and you just get in the taxi and just tell them where you want to go. And it's like, it makes sense. It's an airport. A bunch of people are going to be landing there all the time. So it makes sense to have taxis ready. And that's very convenient and efficient on all parts, really. Got there. It was normal price. It just seemed reasonable. It all worked out fine. And what I noticed different between taxi drivers and the Uber drivers that I've been in, because I'd never have had Uber or Lyft on my phone, but I've been in other people's Ubers before, is that the people that do Ubers and Lyft have to look at their phones constantly for the GPS. The taxi guy didn't even put the address in. He just drove to the address immediately, which is like a bit surreal to watch. I'm like, oh, right, these people are like professionals at the thing that they do. I guess that makes sense. So that was cool to see play out, and that was all normal. Go to Florida, Orlando, Florida. You might be predicting the problem here, but I was tired and hungry because I still haven't had any food all day, and I've gone a whole day without coffee, and I just feel like shit, and it's been a shitty day of travel, and I was just being like forced to sit in an airplane sauna for 2 hours while I was stuck in Tampa. So I'm just miserable and having a bad time. So we're going to go. I'm not going to think about it. I'm not going to jinx it. So I just need to get to a hotel that's like 15 minutes away. I don't think there's any like convenient shuttle or specific thing that's going to get me there easily, but I can just take a taxi like I did in Vancouver, right? So I go down, and there is a taxi, and I take the taxi for only 15 minutes to the hotel that we're staying at across the street from the convention. It's muggy as hell outside. It's super humid. I'm not used to that because I'm from the West Coast, where our beaches are we have dry air, and it's not like that at all. I get to our destination, and the whole time I'm like, I don't know how to read the display on this thing, but I feel like the taxi is doing numbers that I don't expect it to do. We arrive at the hotel, and including the tip and stuff, the price of the taxi is $70. $70 for a 15-minute drive. Oh my god. I'll let you know right now that when it was time to leave Megaplex and get back to the airport, I installed Lyft on my phone for the first time, and they offered me a half-off coupon, and I woke up a friend of ours that was sleeping in the lobby. I was like, "Hey, you want to go to the airport?" And we got a ride back to the airport at the end of the convention for like $8, which I know that's contributing to a different problem, because Lyft and Uber are fucked up and they outcompete all these things, and they fuck up public transport in general, and it's not good for the employees that work there too, because the demand is created for them to work there, but they don't have rights really as employees and so on. It's kind of like me as a YouTuber. Like, as a YouTuber, I don't have any benefits or rights, and I can get fucked over at any time, and I have I just have to pay full price for every single thing. Like, you don't get anything with YouTube as a job, because I myself am like a contract worker basically. But if you charge $70 for a 15-minute drive, you are going to lose a local customer. I might try taxis again elsewhere in America, but I'm not doing them in Orlando, Florida ever again. I learned my fucking lesson there. What a nightmare city for that purpose specifically. At least now the convention can start, and overall, pretty decent convention. We were not in the main hotel, which has downsides coming, but we had a group of 8 people overall, split between 2 rooms and then a few other bonus people coming and going. So we were in 2 different rooms at the hotel across the street, and we could kind of freely go back and forth between the floors that each other's rooms were in. So we'd all just kind of group up and hang out there. Our place had its own pools that we had easy access to. There was a buffet and stuff like that. I get to the convention the next day, and it's a pretty busy thing. It's a kind of like a giant L-shaped space on 2 separate floors, and when you get to the main convention space, it's just a bunch of spread out carpet and tables and chairs. Decent sized dealer's den once it opened up, and decent amenities overall. I'm trying to remember right now. I think I could be mixing this up with FWA, but I think it was Megaplex that may have had the worst venue so far for a dance competition, in that if you don't have perfect seats, you kind of just can't see shit. I think it was like a very long room with poor sight lines and a lower-ish stage, so you just could not see the performers past the crowd particularly at all, and you were really reliant on watching the projector displays that weren't necessarily doing great. So I just kind of had a rough time with that. But overall, just a pretty cozy con where you had easy access. Everyone's just kind of in one space. It's not a complicated space to navigate. It's not like MFF, which has a very bad layout for people to actually hang out in or move around in. Very like good traffic overall and all that. Like, just very easy to just get around, quickly meet up with people, wander around, and just keep talking to people. Had a fair number of friends that were suiting, and that was all going pretty well. There was one incident, which is that there was a guy dressed as a ram, and he was like giving out free punches or something. And do not do that. Do not strike other people who are strangers. If you're going to do any kind of violent-ish thing, even a somewhat playful context or whatever, you really need to be very carefully communicating with people you know, and carefully establishing consent and taking precautions and all that. Do not be the guy who is in fursuit and giving out free punches and like punching people in the chest and stuff like that, who are strangers, which is a thing that happened. A friend of mine got punched, and it's like he was in suit, they were in suit, and that creates a double problem. Like, when you're in a fursuit, you can't see very well, you can't hear very well. It's very difficult for 2 people in fursuit who are strangers to communicate adequately, to really even discuss what's going on here. And this guy apparently did not take very much prompting before he would punch people. So he just punched a friend of mine really hard, and then that friend of mine just retreated to his hotel room and was kind of hiding away from the convention and not wanting to deal with the convention in general, and was for a day or so there, just kind of like had the idea of conventions in general ruined for them, because they were kind of spiraling and thinking they don't want to deal with anything related to conventions ever again, and so on, which might be a somewhat dramatic reaction, but that itself is a thing where it's like a lot of furries are dealing with stuff emotionally, and you don't want to just like fuck with people at random that you don't know. Like, it's surprisingly it's surprising I have to say it, but like, you don't punch people at a convention. So I reported this guy, and when I got to the con ops, they said that other people had reported them already, but they made a big deal like it's good that you reported them too, because like it's you don't want to have like the bystander effect where you just like sit around and ignore these kinds of things. I don't know what the consequences were or if anything came up at all, but I did make a point to explain what had happened here, because like, you can't just have somebody walking around assaulting people, even if they think the person was okay with it somehow. Like, just deeply, deeply stupid behavior to behave like that. The other struggle was that we weren't in the main hotel, and so I never got to experience what is essentially the primary draw of Megaplex, arguably, which is that there is a huge pool by the main hotel, and just a bunch of people go there in their fursuits, or at least their fursuit heads and like swim trunks and stuff like that. And they like, there's like a kind of fursuit pool party going on there. Would have been cool to like walk around and look at that. Did not have access to it because you could only get into that hotel. You can only get into that pool if you had the hotel keys for the main hotel. So you had to be somebody from the main hotel to get in. They weren't letting any outsiders in, even though there were like overflow hotels that were associated with the convention, as far as I know. So that was a bummer. I was thinking I'd be able to get in as a +1 with somebody at some point, but just kind of never panned out. So I just straight up never got to see the reason why a lot of people go to that particular convention. So that was a bummer. But I honestly had a really good time just hanging out with a close-knit group of friends and seeing a few people as a surprise here and there. And in particular, we did our PowerPoint party, which is, I talked about this a bit in my last video, if you haven't seen that, which not a lot of people did. It didn't do very well, but I did a video called Whatever Happened to Guitar Hero, which is basically the way too long version of my PowerPoint. I did a PowerPoint about Rock Band and Guitar Hero. For me, it was like 10 minutes long in real life. But when I did the video for this channel, I just went and rambled on for like an hour, because, you know, we're doing this where I could just do whatever I want, and you're probably washing your dishes or something, so who cares? But immediately before me, Horrorbuns does his PowerPoint, and to prime himself, he just chugs 2 entire beers on the spot while everyone's watching. And then he just does this like shit post of a PowerPoint about how everyone needs to stop asking him to play Deltarune. That was the entire PowerPoint. It was just stop asking him to play Deltarune. And it was ironic, because the PowerPoint really proved to me that Horrorbuns would actually be really entertained by Deltarune, because they have like the same sense of humor. Like, there was a very Toby Fox joke in his PowerPoint where every single slide had an overdone transition of some sort, or the text moving around and so on. It was like overly animated. And at one point he had a solid block of like several bullet points and in a solid block of text, and it slowly rotated off screen in an axis, then came all the way back around, and then arrived back where it started after a huge, very slow animation. But it was tilted wrong and upside down. But it was back where it started, and then it just cut to the next slide. Like a complete failed transition. It was very funny, but it was also like exactly the kind of gags that Toby Fox does in his games. I'm like, you don't know what you're missing. You don't know what you're missing. This PowerPoint is encouraging me to tell you to play Deltarune even more. But then I did my Guitar Hero presentation, which was more informational. It was more, and then I think that's the kind of the dichotomy with these PowerPoints, is that you can either do a really dumb shitposty thing, or you can just genuinely be like, here's my hyperfixation. Here's a thing that I've thought too much about, and I'm going to share this all with somebody now. After me was Steve Hyena Blood did his PowerPoint. We only had 3 of us total. People usually like half the people that talk about doing one back out. That's happened both times I've done it now. Steve does a thing where one of the opening slides starts very strong, which is that it says that we can't have universal basic income because it would make society too horny. And then he goes on to transition to the idea that like Mr. Wolf from The Bad Guys is like the symbol of it's like this sex icon and symbol of temptation and so on. It's like all going with this continuous thread, and it's all extremely graphic design. Like it's all carefully crafted title cards with background image and all that. He actually made it all in like Photoshop or whatever, and then just put those images as his slides, and the entire slide was just a picture he made elsewhere for each one. At one point, it has the insane visual of just Mr. Wolf's cartoon eyes really close to the screen, and on a very low opacity across the whole thing is like a Hieronymus Bosch painting. Is that the name of the guy that like the Disco Elysium art style was based on, of the thought cabinet? And just distributed across this, like there's a hellscape over his like yellow eyes, just deeply unhinged, very stupid imagery. It was incredible. I definitely want to have more PowerPoint parties, because everyone brings a completely different thing to the table when they participate. And you're nervous. I was nervous. I was like shaking the whole time. But you just power through, and everyone ends up having a good time. And that was worth it. We did do Drunken karaoke at one point, and we did get security called on us. A few of us were sober enough to know it was a problem. I was getting nervous about how loud people were getting. Horrorbuns, who set up the karaoke in the first place, actually just left. He just like walked away and left the room. He's like, I'm not dealing with this at some point, because everyone else was just so drunk and so loud that I'm like, this can't go well. And Paint Fox was there, the artist from Arches. And when somebody did finally knock on the door, Paint Fox opened the door, and he was in for a fright because he's from Central America, and this guy comes in, and this guy answers the door. It's like a full-on like security guard. I think he had a gun and stuff like that, and it's like that was like such a what the fuck. Like I thought I was gonna die, partly because he was drunk, and partly because you're just not used to how like decked out and overly armed and overly intimidating people are over unnecessary things. Like I get this. Like I hate how there's people that just walk around with weapons, and you're like, that's not what the stakes of this confrontation are. You're telling us to turn the music down. Like, you don't need to have a weapon on you. That's uncomfortable. So that brought an end to the karaoke night. Rio from String Zero was making mixed drinks again. So we had like the Amicus bathwater cocktail, and then we had the new Cooper bathwater from Remember the Flowers. It just has a series of themed drinks around each protagonist, or not protagonist, but like each wolf from each different furry visual novel that people in the room work on. I think Jericho, the creator of Remember the Flowers, actually got to have like creative input about what should go into the drink, which is funny. It was mostly otherwise a pretty standard convention with not a lot to talk about. I did get a little bit of a glimpse into Orlando in that I had a few different friend groups I could bounce between. The main people I was spending the con with, but I would like a few people that I would try to meet up with here and there. So I met up with Zek and Hutzer, and they took me out to a like Cajun themed restaurant in Florida. And there's like a very low light, like a mood lighting kind of place. It was very themed, and it was actually like a really good dinner overall. But while we're there, we kept looking out the window. Oh no, there's the other place. It's like this happened separately, but then we went to a burger place on a different day. And while we're at the burger place, we're looking out the window, and next door there is a weird knockoff Disney thing going on. And we're like, we got to take a look at that, right? But we get to the burger place, and Hutz meets the guy at the cashier, and they bond over the fact that they both have rock tattoos. They both have rock tattoos on their arms. Two different rocks for two different reasons, both from media. Hutzer, I think, had the rock from Everything Everywhere All at Once. Whereas the guy at the cashier had That's a Rock Fact from Over the Garden Wall, which is adorable. And I had to explain what Over the Garden Wall is to everybody. And it's just deeply surreal that two people bonded over having bicep rock tattoos. It's oddly specific, and they're both relatively recent media references. I don't know if those are from the same year or not. I don't remember how old Over the Garden Wall is. I only watched it this year, finally. So I was tuned in. But afterwards we're like, we have to check out this weird knockoff Disney souvenir shop. Like what's going on over there? Because they just have like a bunch of weird like painted windows of Disney characters, and you just know that it's not a real Disney shop because we're in Florida. So like there's real Disney stuff because Disney World is over there, but there's got to be some weird knockoff thing. And we go in and it gets weird fast. Like there's all the Disney, you think it's gonna be full of Disney toys because of the stuff on the walls, but literally the first thing I hone in on is they have a whole wall of desk bells, like the ones you like ding at the receptionist type of bells, of all these different like rave colors, like bright pink and bright green and stuff like that, and they all just say "ring for sex." That's all it says. And I'm like, this is unhinged and not what I thought I was going to see when I saw like Lilo and Stitch on the windows on the way in. But I am visiting somebody in Rhode Island next month, and it is their birthday. So I bought the sex bell, and I brought that home to take to somebody else and deliver to them. And they actually got food poisoning right after our trip. And they told me about how they kept having to ring the sex bell in order to get their roommates to help them out here and there while they were recovering from food poisoning for a few days, like a few weeks after I got back from visiting them. So the sex bell has been used, at least for one purpose, but it's bizarre that thing has a whole story to it now. But overall, the con is wrapping up. It wasn't super eventful. It was just a good time with friends without not a lot of stories coming out of it. But on the last day, we're just hanging out by the pool at our hotel, the normal people hotel pool that doesn't have a bunch of fursuiters at it, and it's just a bunch of us sitting around this one table and just kind of taking shots of Fireball whiskey because I think it's Orion always brings Fireball to these, and we're just trying to finish this thing off, which is an impossible task because there's too much. But we're just like having increasingly drunk, bonding chat, having a good time. They end up eventually just giving up and just handing the Fireball to somebody else. Like, here you go. Here's some surprise whiskey. We're turning in. But we're like hanging up at one of the rooms, and we're like hugging everyone farewell. And some people have heard this story before because it's come up a few times. Horrorbuns has been doing Brazilian jiu-jitsu lessons and was joking about how he's going to be throwing people and stuff like that. And so when I'm hugging him goodbye, because we're in two separate rooms as far as the people split goes, I whisper in his ear like, "I'm still unscathed," in reference to his like how him being such a weapon of a man and all that. And he turns that hug into a tackle backwards onto the bed that was behind me. And it was funny. It was a funny reaction. In the moment, everything seemed fine. But they leave, and then later on I lay down to go to bed with my roommates for the con, and we're trying to turn in. And like I'm sore. And I'm like, damn, he got me. But it just doesn't seem like a big deal yet. I then go catch the flight the next day after the whole lift thing that I talked about earlier. And the whole flight home, I'm much less comfortable. I'm like, damn, yeah, I'm like actually like kind of injured, aren't I? And then like I tried going to the gym the next day because I've been going to the gym, and I'm like, nope, this seems like it's a bad idea. So I end up going to urgent care to get x-rays to figure out what's going on with me. Never really got a definitive answer. The main thing is that every night, especially when I was laying down, it was just very difficult to get comfortable because if I laid in almost any direction, like the flexing of my ribs would cause me pain, and so it was kind of hard to go to sleep. During the peak of the pain, it was also just hard to use chairs, or in particular to get in and out of chairs, because of like you'd have to like try not to engage anything in the core and try to use your arms to get up and stuff like that. So he fucked me up somehow, but I got x-rays and they couldn't find anything in the x-ray. So they suggested that either it's a small fracture that's not visible, or it's not a skeletal problem, which leaves like it being like something in this weird like core area. It was like on my flank under my like either in or under my ribs. It was like too vague to spot exactly, but it really set back my gym journey because it took a month for this to heal. It was not going away. And I knew from the first few times I went to the gym at the beginning that I'm like, nope, feels like I'm making things worse. So I really just completely stopped and only went back to the gym when it was almost completely gone. Towards the end, I was like, at some point, it probably, you have like a physical therapy part, right? Where you kind of can work through it, and that might even help it in some way. Cause it's like maybe stretching it out and working it gets past the last bit of whatever discomfort is at the tail. I don't know. Because I didn't have a specific diagnosis, I didn't have an exact answer for what was wrong, which meant I didn't have an exact answer of how to proceed. They gave me like a thing to inhale air through that is meant to keep, where you're supposed to like play Flappy Bird by keeping a ball between two lines in a tube, and you have to continuously breathe through for like 30 seconds, and that's supposed to fully inflate your lungs, which is an interesting device. The idea is that if you have a rib injury of some sort, this device will help you fully inflate your lungs by giving you a little game to play, and that helps you avoid getting pneumonia. They didn't really listen to me when I said that I don't actually have any pain from breathing, so I didn't actually end up using that, but it was a weird device to learn about. Overall, the most amusing part of this is that I got to text Horrorbuns a picture of me from the with a medical wristband, being like, just like joking about how things are going after he hugged me too hard, basically. And he also drew apology art of his fursona Rory breaking Marrow's ribs with a too hard of a hug, which is probably the thumbnail to this art. So that's how I got injured in Megaplex, and that's how I just kind of like have had comments about my ribs for like the last month or so. But I'm finally back at 100% and doing fine, and I'm back at the gym and just trying to live life correctly. But yeah, Megaplex, decent convention. It's just like a decent space. It's really hard for me to judge how good conventions are because it really does amount to like, do I have a good group is like the majority of what makes the experience good or bad. But I don't have a lot of complaints about Megaplex as a convention space overall. Most of my injuries and extortion experiences and logistical constraints were mostly not about the venue, but instead other shit that just kind of happened as part of the story of my vacation. Probably not my favorite convention. I think my favorite convention might still be either FWA or BLFC for two very different reasons. FWA is the convention that everyone is at, and it's in a cool hotel with the weird rib cage design. It's just kind of better FWA. Like pretty much everybody goes to Anthrocon, MFF, or FWA. If you're hoping to see a ton of your friends or random people that you know, and just kind of be able to walk around and see a bunch of surprise people and talk to them, those are the three huge cons. Those are the places to go for that experience. And of those three, my favorite one is FWA because it kind of just has a good space overall for that without being Anthrocon is like a full convention experience. I just kind of had a trouble. Anthrocon is like a full convention space, and I had trouble really like meeting up with people and like really having much of an experience there. So maybe I just got unlucky the one time I was there, but I didn't really like it very much. MFF, I feel like the venue kind of sucks just in general. Like I've been to all of them so far since 2022 when I started going, and I'm going to be there again this year. But I do think that the actual lobby space that people mostly hang out in, and especially the hallways leading in and out of it, and the escalator pointing directly into a crowd and so on, is just like a lot of really rough spaces for being able to get around and find a place to hang out with your friends and so on. And that all kind of sucks. And FWA is just really good for all that. BLFC is kind of the opposite direction, where it's just a really chill con. It's like a nice big long hallway. There's a Fat Tuesdays in the middle of it, which is an alcoholic slushy vendor. It's under a casino. I don't like the casino part, but it's just kind of like tucked away under a casino on a different floor. It's just kind of like here's a huge wide hallway where a bunch of fursuiters are hanging out. And there's a good like stage area, a main stage and a secondary stage for events. It all really just goes well. There's no waiting for elevators. There's no logistical constraints for getting around. And also for me personally, it's only a 2-hour drive away from where I live, and I have my car the whole time. So I can just put some friends in a car and just go out and get good food all the time. So overall, like, big upgrade that it's a local con with a car. But also I just think it's a really chill hangout convention. And maybe I'll make a separate video about BLFC, because I'm already back from that too. I took way too long to make a Megaplex video. There's been a few reasons why it's been too long since the last video. I'm sorry. I should probably talk about that a little bit. I moved, obviously. I haven't had any videos recently on this channel at all, because I've just been really busy. But I also haven't had any videos with my face because moving happened. My room was a mess, trying to figure that out. My webcam broke. There was one part where I sat down to try to record something, and then the webcam troubleshooting got so involved trying to get it to work that I just got completely demotivated trying to work on that video and lost all my momentum. Like, it takes a lot. I'm anxious and nervous and socially weird. So like, when I try to sit here and try to make these videos, I really have to work up the will to think that, like, oh yeah, I totally have something worth saying, and someone's totally gonna like find this video entertaining for some reason. And it's not stupid bullshit of me narcissistically talking to a camera about stupid things that no one cares about. Like, there's so much doubt in that, even though on some level this is just as the dumb third channel where I do just talk about whatever the fuck I feel like. And also, people do just yap on TikTok whenever they want to. Like, people do just make videos vlogging. This is weirdly the old version of YouTube where people just talked and just fucked around and there weren't stakes. But I'm not used to that. I'm used to either doing the one thing I always do, which is the Let's Plays, or I do the video essays where I have to really work myself up into the idea of like that this is a big deal to write about and so on, and I have to really convince myself that it's all like worth saying. Where this is a weird space, I'm still practicing picking my topics, gauging whether or not a video is good or not, or if I should talk about a particular thing. I've been scrapping a lot of ideas because I get too nervous about like whether or not I should talk about that and so on. While also just dealing with all that stuff in general. Is also we just had the Halloween event on my Let's Play channel where I have to quickly pivot to a bunch of horror games in order to fill out that event, which I could not plan ahead for very much because Silent Hill F came out last minute right before October started. But also I do a Patreon vote every 3 months about what game to play, which unfortunately does overlap with October in this case. It's January, April, July, October every 3 months. So the fact that I do a Halloween event and a Patreon every 3 months overlaps, unfortunately, in a really frustrating way where I end up having to quickly do a horror game and quickly do the Patreon game. And in this case, Patreon voted for Claire Obscure, a very long JRPG. So I'm still working on that. So I just kind of like have been like really dedicated to working on that channel. I get really busy this time of the year. Completely derailed stuff I was trying to write for the essay channel, and also just like I kind of just never had time and space to work on or think about topics for this channel and get to work back on that. So it's been inconsistent and messy. I went into this year with the goal of making 6 video essays this year. I wanted to have one done every other month. It's now about to be November. I have obviously massively failed at that. But I do have a handful of ideas for relatively short essays, and also some of the ones I put a lot of work into, like Luca and Zelda, are videos that I just kind of need to pick back up. Luca needs to be polished off, and the Zelda video just got really unwieldy and messy, so I need to take my ideas and restructure it and rewrite it from scratch probably, but kind of knowing where I'm going with it. So like, video essays are coming, I think. It's just my workflow and my process has not been great this year. Last year, I spent a lot of the year trying to pursue an ADHD diagnosis, and that did not work well. We're coming up on the part of the year where in the United States you can change insurance providers and so on, the open enrollment period. So I'm probably going to change insurance providers now that I've moved, and then pick a different hospital and get in a different system. And I'm probably going to start that process again because, and I'll make a video about the ADHD thing one of these days, but it's just like, it would be one thing if I got a definite no, and it'd be one thing if I got a definite yes. But I got a no from my medical practitioners that was so sketchy and questionable from my perspective, and there were so many sources of doubt that I just don't totally believe them. And that's the worst thing that could have happened, because that's basically, I spent a bunch of money and time all year being away from work and dealing with this process only to not get any answer or progress one way or the other. That sucks that that's how that worked, but I want to get a second opinion, and Kaiser refuses second opinions, which is also kind of sketchy in its own way. You can't get a second opinion from within or without Kaiser. They won't accept one for their insurance. You can't get a diagnosis elsewhere and bring it to them, and they also won't like let you like talk to somebody else and start over and get a second opinion there, which is really frustrating about something where you're trying to articulate to somebody else how your brain works, and you don't know. Like, I don't know. I would love to have a definite answer because I don't know how my own brain works, because I can't test being somebody else. I've only ever been this person. But they also can't like get in my brain to objectively and definitely know. So like, I don't know. I'll make the larger video about that at some point other time though. This has already been too long. I'm surprised I managed to fill almost an hour talking about a convention, but I mostly just came to sit to complain about the flight mess and give us a little recap. Let me know in the comments what kind of stuff you would like to see me talk about on this channel. It won't be high concept media analysis type stuff, but I might give like vibes about like, this might be a channel where I talk about like movies that I've seen recently, and just kind of go on about that for a bit if I think I have something interesting to say, but don't want to like sit down and write about it for like a real video on the essay channel. But I'm still kind of feeling out what to do here. Also got to figure out lighting. I'll figure out a new camera at some point and figure out how YouTubers or whoever do like, I think it's called like 3-point lighting, like figure out how to, I have no idea how to light a room. I just kind of put down a red, orange, and purple light, and that did something. For context, because somebody might ask about it, this shirt is from Matt Baum, a different YouTuber. And that back there is a tapestry. Actually, oh yeah, I got that at Megaplex actually from Creeps. Is a furry artist that does really beautiful paintings and sells them as in a variety of formats, but one of them is whole ass tapestry. So check that out if you ever see them at a convention, because I'm just happy to have that. That's just fun. It's a vampire slayer. That's fun. I'm going to go to bed because it's actually really late for me. So thanks for watching like always, guys, and I'll see you next time when I work up the will to talk to a camera again. I hate appearing on camera. I'll get through it at some point, but it is a weird shift.